I love British comedy, and while some of the movies and shows make it across the pond to America, I've found that a number of British personalities don't have much name recognition in the States. I like to recommend UK comics that don't have quite the same pull in the US from time to time. I've done a couple videos on the likes of David Mitchell and Robert Webb and Richard Iowati. Check those out after this if you haven't seen them already. Panel shows have pretty much no holding in the US, though sometimes a show like The Fix comes along and tries to change that. Bringing over British panel show regulars Jimmy Carr and Catherine Ryan was a smart move, and they make the show work, even when some of the American guests are maybe not quite firing on all cylinders within the format. Catherine Ryan really shines on The Fix as a team captain. Makes me hope she hosts or captains more on UK shows in the future instead of just being a frequent guest. Don't even bother with the American Taskmaster. Ugh, just awful. It just doesn't work. The lineup doesn't have much in the way of chemistry. Reggie Watts lacks Greg Davies' commanding presence, and the episodes are barely over 20 minutes as opposed to the UK episodes which push the 45-minute mark. 20 minutes doesn't cut it with this format. The VTs are all rushed, and they only squeeze in like 2 of these rushed tasks into an episode. The only thing they got right was keeping Alex Horton, but there's no chemistry or, in fact, much interaction between him and the host at all. Anyway, enough about that. The real focus of this video is Tim Minchin. And yeah, he's Australian, so not really a UK comedian. It's not like he's unheard of in the US. He's toured and his specials are on the US Netflix, but still his home base is overseas. He's actually Australian, but he's got a good foothold in the UK comedy scene. I mean, come on, he's done the panel shows. He's been on Buzzcocks and QI, tiny spot on one of the big fat quizzes of the years. You might even recognize him as Atticus Fetch from Californication, a role perfectly tailored to his persona.
My immortal beloved left me!
No, she left you because you wouldn't stop other women.
The drugs made me do
Oh,
it!
the drugs did not make you do it. You made you do it.
Me made me do that! Me made me do it!
He's had some other acting roles too, like in, apparently he was in the new Robin Hood. Wait, there was a Robin Hood in 2018? What the fuck? Jamie Foxx is in it? Why do we need a gritty Robin Hood? Why do we need a second gritty Robin Hood? Tim Minchin is one of them musical comedians, that specific subset of stand-ups who integrate music into their comedy. Is Tim Minchin the best musical comedian? Well, first, let's take a look at the competition. We're only looking at stand-up comedy musicians, not just anyone who makes funny music. That means people like Weird Al and Tenacious D are out of the running. So what is Tim Minchin up against? You've got Flight of the Conchords, Stephen Lynch, Bo Burnham, Garfunkel and Oates.
This is a song about anal sex and God.
Fuck me in the ass cause I love Jesus.
Bill Bailey and Tom Lehrer, if you want to go way back. Then you've got those who incorporate music but fall more heavily on the stand-up and leave music as an accompaniment or a secluded bit. This includes people like David O'Doherty and Dimitri Martin. So out of this clustered subset, is Tim Minchin the best? Well, if you're going by who's the funniest, then I gotta say no. There's a special spot in my heart for Flight of the Conchords.
Why? Cause I rap about reality. Like me and my grandma drinking a cup of tea. There ain't no party like Bananas Tea Party. Hi, ho.
Video on them coming at some point in the not too distant future. If you're going by who's the best musician, who makes the actually catchiest songs that could stand as good music if the comedy were stripped out, then yeah, I think so, maybe. Bo Burnham has some really impressive stuff, so it's close between them there. Musically, Tim Minchin's work is genuinely impressive. His lyrics are especially impressive and complicated for certain songs.
At 11:53 I instigate the day's ablutions in the hope my constitution can be altered by some action on the bowl. But the total non-existence of colonic animation seems to me the perfect metaphor for the utter constipation of my soul.
Maybe I'm just stupid, but I had no idea what a thalidomide kid was.
I have no right to cry, some people have it worse than I could be a thalidomide kid with something in my eye.
Without knowing, a kid with something in their eye already functions in the context of their song, but when you look it up and see that thalidomide was a drug prescribed to pregnant women to help them sleep, but it actually caused birth defects in their babies, then the joke takes on a whole new meaning. And the kid with something in their eye can't get it out because they were born with disabled limbs, because a pharmaceutical company fucked over the public, as they are wont to do. That's a deep cut, or again, maybe I'm just stupid and general audiences all know about thalidomide. But at any rate, it shows the type of target that Tim Minchin goes at. He punches up and he punches big, like at the pharmaceutical industry. It's the kind of stuff that you'll like a whole lot more if you agree with his point of view, but it's never really pandering and or really ever preachy. More like eloquent logic delivered to the detriment of, say, religion.
Fuck the motherfucker, fuck the motherfucker, fuck the motherfucker, fucking fuck the motherfucker, fuck the motherfucker, fuck the motherfucking herb. Fuck the motherfucker and fuck you, motherfucker, if you think that motherfucker is sacred. If you cover for another motherfucker who's a kitty fucker, you're no better than the motherfucking rapist. And if you don't like the swearing this motherfucker forced from me and reckon it shows moral or intellectual paucity, then fuck you, motherfucker. This is language one employs when one is a little bit cross at motherfuckers fucking boys. Yeah.
His points on subjects like religion are sometimes so remarkably well delivered that you could almost forget you're watching a comedy show and mistake it for a TED Talk. Well, then there's always a joke to snap you back into attention.
What makes an object sacred? This is my copy of the Holy Quran there, on my piano there. What makes this object sacred? What makes 4,000 people nervous? How is it different from this, my copy of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows? And with respect, I can honestly say that I think it is different. But why is it different? Because you think, wouldn't you, instinctively, that it's the text, that it's the words contained within this, the incineration of which we fear or abhor. It's the words. But since the invention of the printing press and latterly the internet, these words have been reproduced hundreds of millions of times. These words, happily, these ancient words, are indestructible. So it can't be that. So is it? And then I thought maybe actually it might be just the very presence of this word, this incredibly powerful word, Quran, spelt here with the Q and the apostrophe A-N. Is it just that word? For that matter, what if I took my yellow sticky note with the word Quran on it and stuck it on the front of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows? Perhaps you're now justifiably nervous about how I'm going to treat this book. What about if I took this cover off this copy of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows and put it on this copy of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows? Are we now worried about what I'm going to do with this? And we're left with just this piece of cardboard. Are we worried about how I'm going to treat this? And for that matter, whether it's the Quran or Harry Potter, whether it's sacred to someone or not, what sort of fucking idiot burns a book?
There's a good amount of variety to the topics as well. Yeah, maybe he'll do a couple bits on religion in a row, well segued together and themed. Then a song about cheese comes out of left field.
Cheese. Cheese.
One area where Tim Minchin stands head and shoulders above the rest of the musical comedians, however, is in the persona. I find personas quite interesting, just generally, and Tim Minchin's is deceptively complicated in a way that I find thoroughly entertaining to pick apart. It's a persona that you can unravel by watching him perform.
I never get angry. I never express my anger. I think a lot of people are like this increasingly in crowded societies. We fear confrontation. But I wonder what's happening to the anger, because I feel like it's like I'm repressing my feelings, and I wonder if that's bad for me, you know? And anyway, I've been talking to my psychologist about this, and people, I know it might seem surprising that I go to a psychologist, because obviously on stage my persona's very well adjusted, but you know, we've all got our stuff. Anyway,
he has an archetypical rock star look, and I mean, what a look it is. My God, he's got style. I don't know how Tim Minchin, Russell Brand, and Noel Fielding haven't formed a three-piece rock comedy band. I'm sure the goth detectives could use another partner in crime solving.
I mean,
Skeleton's a good
there's
name.
been no goth detectives. We could play a sort of gothic Starsky and Hutch.
What mysteries would you investigate?
Listen, you just give us 48 hours and we'll get the job done, if we weren't so bloody miserable.
See our shadows across the alleyway as we sort of slowly solve crime.
I don't know, maybe Russell Brand is too busy transcendentally meditating with David Lynch or something. Minchin's got the hair, the coat, the eyes, the shoes or lack thereof. But where a classic rock star assembles his getup and goes about their business without comment, Minchin immediately deconstructs the look.
I work very hard for my rock and roll hair. I get it chemically strange and then I style it for hours. I work very hard for a rock and roll face. I've got the kooky contact lenses and the curly mascara. But there is something deeper inside. Something that this mask I well won't hide. I paid lots of money for this big piano and the fancy lights to make me look like Michael Jackson. I paid lots of money for this bohemian coat, and the fact I don't wear shoes is just an affectation.
His autobiographical song, Rock and Roll Nerd, is a great introduction to him as a person and as a persona. This is where the levels to his public presentation become interesting. There's a dichotomy to his aspirations and presentation versus his actual self, and I think that makes for a compelling character study. He dreams of being a rock star, but he learns piano instead of guitar. He dresses the part, but he doesn't live the lifestyle. I find these contradictions between the persona and the man fascinating. His creation is one of a struggling musician failing to find a foothold in the music biz, and then sliding into the comedy racket in a backup plan sort of way, whereas I think most comedy musicians are more often the other way around. To simplify it, I think most in this subset use the music as an accompaniment or delivery method for the comedy, while Minchin is the reverse. He uses comedy to deliver his music. It's these things about him that I find so compelling. In rewatching his So Fucking Rock special, I was interested by his delivery on some of his stand-up bits between the songs, which is a little awkward and rocky in this particular show.
We can edit this bit out, though. It's a great thing. This isn't live. This isn't real. This isn't happening. Sorry. Well, no. Look, to be honest, those of you who've seen my stuff before will be able to concur that this is kind of about right for me, isn't it? I mean, it's not like I usually do a great start. My start's here with the talking bit. You know, I can do the songs because they're very structured and they suit me, but the talking bit I find difficult to kind of initiate that first, like that, you know.
Part of it is surely intentional, but finding where the stage character ends and the actual awkwardness of the man begins is interesting to me. He does come off as genuinely a bit nervous in this taping at times, but only during the stand-up bits. His confidence is always there in spades whenever he's behind the piano.
So maybe we'll start the show again. Fuck it.
He does some beat poetry, which is not just distinctive, but really cool and reminiscent of old Tom Waits shows like Burma Shave.
A hand on the shoulder, an avuncular wink, sips his lemon drink, spits out the pips, hands on hips, licks his lips like a wolf near a flock.
The road looked just like a ribbon and the moon was like a bone. And he didn't seem to be like any guys she'd ever known.
If you're already a fan of Minchin and want more, then you might have to seek his stuff live. He does a ton of theater and live performances that don't get accompanying concert movie coverage. He's definitely someone that I would like to see live. If you aren't already a fan and you're unsure where to start, you could go with the Tim Minchin and the Heritage Orchestra live show for a more polished and grandiose performance, or if you want a smaller and more personal vibe, you could go with the So Fucking Rock show. Both are currently on Netflix in the US, and you can find his shows on YouTube too, if you're looking for them. If you're like me and you find Persona interesting to dissect, then you'll get more from that smaller show. But if you just want an entertaining show, the full orchestra really does add to the overall excitement of the performances. There are some songs shared between the two shows, so maybe don't watch them back to back unless you want repeats. The orchestra and the solo performances of these songs are different enough, though, as you would imagine, to keep them fresh.
Fuck yeah.
So check out Tim Minchin specials and make sure you subscribe here and stick around for more stuff. And yes, this is my real voice. It's just what I sound like all the time. Get over it or go away. I'm going to sit here for another 10 seconds or so while this end screen plays. Click on all the stuff that's around me and covering my face up. Alright, bye.